The markets today are telling a story, one filled with hesitation, unease, and an undercurrent of fear that's hard to ignore. Volatility is no longer an occasional visitor, it has become a permanent resident. But beneath the surface turbulence, there is a pattern emerging, a logic to this behavior that becomes clear when we take a step back and examine the deeper forces at play. What looks like confusion is actually the market trying to price in a new reality, one defined by accelerating innovation, shifting economic structures, and the remnants of policy decisions made years earlier. If the markets seem nervous, it's because they sense that we are at the front end of a massive transition. Investors are wrestling with conflicting signals. On one side, legacy economic indicators are flashing warning signs, slowing growth, uneven demand, and a tightening financial landscape. On the other, innovation is moving at a pace we haven't seen in decades. AI, robotics, energy storage, biotech, and blockchain technologies are pushing boundaries simultaneously. The clash between these two worlds creates dissonance. Traditional models weren't built to absorb exponential change, so they produce noise, distortion, and uncertainty. Markets aren't confused because they lack information. They're confused because the information no longer fits the frameworks used to interpret it. Monetary policy is another source of stress. After years of unprecedented stimulus, the unwind has been uneven and reactive. Central banks are trying to navigate inflationary aftershocks while also avoiding the risk of strangling growth. Each speech, each rate decision, each data release is treated like a tectonic shift, because the market is trying to determine whether policymakers truly understand how the underlying economy is evolving. And that lack of clarity sparks fear. The market hates uncertainty, but what it fears even more is the possibility that those in charge of managing risk may be using outdated playbooks. But if we look through a different lens, a lens focused on innovation curves rather than traditional cycles, we see a story that is far more coherent. We are in a period of creative destruction. Old systems are breaking down not because something has gone wrong, but because something new is emerging. The workforce is being reshaped, supply chains are being restructured, energy systems are transitioning. Entire industries are being reorganized. These changes don't happen smoothly. They produce friction, disruption, and volatility. Markets react with nervousness because they're trying to anticipate where leadership will emerge and where value will collapse. And here's where the real insight lies. The nervousness itself is a sign of opportunity. When the market doesn't understand what's happening, it misprices assets, sometimes dramatically. We saw this in every major technological shift: the internet, mobile computing, genomics, cloud software. Early on, volatility is the byproduct of disbelief. Investors cling to old assumptions longer than the data supports. But eventually, the market catches up to the truth, and when it does, the revaluation is rapid and fierce. Right now, the market is fixated on short-term risks, but beneath the noise, powerful long-term forces are taking shape. Productivity is poised for a renaissance driven by AI automation, advanced robotics, and software that collapses costs across multiple sectors. Energy economics are shifting toward abundance as battery technologies scale and renewable infrastructure becomes more efficient. Biological innovation is finally intersecting with computing power in ways that will redefine medicine, agriculture, and manufacturing. These aren't distant possibilities. They're happening now, even if the market hasn't fully recognized the implications. So yes, the markets are nervous. They are supposed to be. They are trying to recalibrate in real time as the world undergoes its most significant transformation since the Industrial Revolution. But beneath that nervousness, there is clarity for those willing to look past the volatility. The nervous energy is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of transition, a sign that we are moving from an era of incremental progress to one of exponential change. This moment we're living through will be studied for decades because it marks the point where the global economy breaks from its old trajectory and begins accelerating along an entirely new curve. And the irony is that most people still think in linear terms. They look back at 2008, at how disruptive and devastating that downturn was, and assume that anything coming next will follow a similar script. But this time is different, not because the risks are smaller, but because the forces reshaping the world are far larger. What is unfolding now is an innovation wave so powerful, so deflationary, and so transformative that the shock of 2008 will look small in comparison, not because this moment will be more painful, but because the scale of opportunity and reinvention is exponentially greater. The technologies emerging today are not isolated breakthroughs. They are converging at the same time, amplifying each other's impact. Artificial intelligence isn't just automating tasks, it's rewriting the cost structures of entire industries. Robotics isn't just assisting manufacturing, it's enabling global production to reorganize around precision, speed, and near-zero marginal labor costs. Energy storage isn't just improving efficiency, it's laying the foundation for an energy system built on abundance rather than scarcity. Genomics isn't just mapping DNA, it's unlocking programmable biology capable of curing diseases, engineering crops, and producing materials that used to require factories. And blockchain isn't just about digital assets, it's redefining trust, ownership, and financial infrastructure. When you combine these forces, you don't get incremental change, you get compounding disruption, and compounding disruption is profoundly misunderstood by the market. Investors are accustomed to cycles, not revolutions. They price risk based on historical patterns, not exponential trajectories. That's why periods like this feel unstable. Traditional metrics fail to capture what's forming beneath the surface. If the world of 2008 was defined by collapse, the world emerging today will be defined by creative destruction on a far larger scale. But disruption, especially at this scale, is inherently deflationary. The more technology collapses cost structures, the more pressure it puts on legacy systems, banks, energy companies, manufacturing chains, healthcare models. That pressure creates fear, and fear creates volatility. Many see that volatility and assume something is breaking. In reality, something is being rebuilt. Systems that were never designed for an exponential world are being forced to adapt or disappear. That isn't a crisis, it's the natural progression of innovation. Every major technological transformation in history followed the same pattern: resistance, confusion, collapse, then breakthrough. The only difference today is speed. What once took 50 years is happening in 5. And the more dramatic the transition, the greater the divide between those who embrace it and those who fear it. In 2008, people lost trust in the financial system because it failed them. Today, people are losing trust in old models because they are becoming obsolete. But every wave of obsolescence creates a wave of reinvention. The innovations coming now are democratizing opportunity, reducing barriers, increasing access, and empowering individuals in ways that were once impossible. Lower costs, faster innovation cycles, and decentralized systems mean breakthroughs no longer belong exclusively to institutions. They belong to anyone willing to understand and adopt them. The magnitude of change ahead will dwarf anything we have seen in modern history. Not because the world is collapsing, but because it is being reset on a foundation capable of supporting exponential progress. The innovations forming today will redefine wealth creation, productivity, and human capability. They will reshape supply chains, healthcare, transportation, energy, finance, and labor. And when the dust settles, what seemed like chaos will be recognized as the early tremors of an entirely new economic era. This innovation wave isn't something you observe, it's something you position for. Those who understand its scale will move early with conviction. Those who cling to the past will be overwhelmed by the speed of change. But make no mistake, this wave is coming, and it will make 2008 look small, not because the risks are greater, but because the transformation is far greater. Once again, the world is looking at artificial intelligence through a rear view mirror, judging tomorrow's potential with yesterday's assumptions. It is extraordinary how consistently markets underestimate technologies that scale exponentially. They measure early performance, early adoption, early limitations, and assume this is the slope of the curve. But AI is not following the old trajectories of computing or software. It is accelerating at a pace so profound that even experts anchored in traditional forecasting models are missing its magnitude. The world is making the same mistake it made with the internet, with smartphones, with cloud computing. Except this time, the consequences of that miscalculation are exponentially larger. What's happening inside AI isn't a linear improvement, it's compounding evolution. Models aren't just becoming bigger, they are becoming more capable in entirely new ways. What seemed impossible 18 months ago is now routine. Tasks that once required specialist expertise are being completed instantly and often with higher accuracy. And the most important part is that the cost of intelligence is collapsing. That single shift, falling cost curves, is what rewrites entire economies. When the cost of something essential drops exponentially, adoption doesn't increase gradually, it explodes. We've seen this pattern in genomics, batteries, and semiconductors. AI is now following the same deflationary curve, except the output isn't energy or hardware, it's intelligence itself. The challenge is that traditional economic models were never built to account for intelligence as a rapidly scaling commodity. Analysts understand how cheaper computing power spreads. They do not yet understand what happens when decision making, creativity, coding, forecasting, diagnostics, and analysis all become near zero cost functions. They focus on job displacement, but ignore productivity booms. They focus on disruption, but ignore the creation of entirely new industries. They focus on risk, but ignore the historically unprecedented opportunities unlocked when intelligence becomes abundant. The reason the world is underestimating AI is simple. Linear minds cannot predict exponential systems. The technology is evolving faster than institutions, regulations, corporations, and educational systems can adapt. That mismatch creates friction, and friction creates skepticism. But skepticism is not analysis. It is simply a lag in understanding. Many people still think of AI as a better search engine or a tool for automating repetitive tasks. They haven't yet internalized what it means when AI becomes a collaborator, a creator, a strategist, and a scientist. We are crossing thresholds that were unimaginable even 5 years ago. What makes this moment so pivotal is the convergence underway. AI isn't advancing in isolation. It is amplifying breakthroughs in robotics, genomics, finance, engineering, energy, and materials science. It is simultaneously accelerating multiple S-curves, pushing them up the exponential slope. Robotics without AI was limited. Genomics without AI was slow. Autonomous systems without AI were fragile. Combine them, and the constraints disappear. Entire industries begin restructuring around intelligence-driven efficiencies. And because the cost curve is falling so fast, small teams can now build what once required billion-dollar budgets. Creativity and capability are being decentralized at scale. But perhaps the biggest blind spot is the psychological one. Humans anchor themselves to familiar patterns, growth curves they've lived through before. They assume AI will take decades to mature because other technologies took decades. But AI doesn't rely on physical manufacturing constraints. Its progress is driven by compute, data, and algorithms, 3 inputs accelerating simultaneously. When those inputs compound, progress doesn't just accelerate, it leaps. This is why the world is underestimating AI again, because it is trying to fit an exponential revolution into a linear model. It is trying to analyze a technological catalyst using outdated frameworks. The institutions built to measure progress are not equipped for what's happening now. The magnitude of AI impact will not be gradual. It will be sudden, widespread, and transformative. The reality is that AI is not simply another innovation wave. It is the foundation upon which countless waves will be built, and the sooner the world understands this, the sooner it will stop reacting with fear and start responding with vision. The conversation around automation has been framed far too narrowly. People keep asking, will my job be replaced? As if the threat is limited to individual tasks or specific roles. But what's coming is so much broader, so much more sweeping, that this question misses the point entirely. The truth is that it's not your job that's at risk, it's your entire industry. And the reason is simple. We are moving into an economy where intelligence, creativity, and execution can scale far faster than any traditional organization, workforce model, or business structure. Once that shift takes hold, the boundaries that defined industries for decades will dissolve almost overnight. We've seen hints of this before. Streaming didn't just replace video store employees, it obliterated the entire video rental industry. Smartphones didn't just automate photography jobs, they rewrote the entire camera, GPS, music, gaming, and communications landscape. And AI is operating at a scale even larger than these past disruptions. Because for the first time, we're not just digitizing tasks, we are digitizing capability itself. When capability becomes modular, instant, and nearly free, entire sectors that relied on high friction, high cost, or specialized expertise become vulnerable. Industries that have operated on traditional hierarchies will feel this most intensely. Retail, finance, logistics, medicine, education, legal services, transportation. These industries were built for a world where scale required people, paperwork, coordination, and physical infrastructure. But when intelligence, automation, and robotics converge, the entire structure collapses into something far leaner and more efficient. What once required thousands of workers, dozens of buildings, and years of training can now be executed by teams a fraction of the size, powered by systems that learn continuously and operate at near zero marginal cost. This doesn't mean humans disappear. It means the role of the human rewires. Creativity, oversight, vision, and ethical judgment become more valuable, not less. But the layers of bureaucracy, routine processing, manual coordination, and administrative work that dominated entire industries, they evaporate. Markets won't wait for slow adopters to adapt. The moment a competitor deploys AI that collapses costs and multiplies productivity, others must follow or fall out of the race. That's why it's not about job replacement. It's about structural replacement. And the most profound impact will come from cross-industry convergence. When AI enables robotics to achieve precision beyond human capability, manufacturing and logistics merge. When AI accelerates drug discovery at unprecedented speed, pharmaceutical research and computational biology merge. When AI tutors millions of students individually, education and software merge. Entire boundaries that once separated industries start dissolving because intelligence enables functions to blend seamlessly. Companies that used to operate in distinct sectors become competitors in the same arena. What makes this moment so disruptive is the speed. Most industries assume they have time to reskill, time to adapt, time to evolve. But exponential technologies don't grant that luxury. Once the underlying cost curve collapses, once capability increases tenfold in months rather than years, the transition becomes nonlinear. People will be shocked not by the disappearance of jobs, but by the disappearance of industries they thought were too large, too regulated, or too essential to fail. But technological inevitability doesn't negotiate with legacy structures. This is why the real question isn't, will my job survive? The real question is, am I aligned with the direction the world is moving? Because industries will transform with or without our permission. The winners of this era will be those who shift from defending the old models to embracing the new ones. Those who learn how to work with AI, not against it. Those who understand that capability, true scalable capability, is becoming democratized at a level we've never seen before. The disruption ahead is not a threat to individuals, it's a challenge to systems, And those who position themselves to ride the wave of transformation will not just survive, they'll lead the industries that emerge on the other side.